Back with us, Hector Garza, National Border Patrol Counsel. Hector, what do you make of this? It does seem to be a big 180 on the part of the administration. I'm sure you would welcome it regardless. What do you think?
Well, we're always going to be supporting a border wall along the border in order to secure the United States, right? But unfortunately, this type of border wall that's being built in Yuma, Arizona, does pretty much nothing to be able to provide border security. What the administration is trying to accomplish here is that they're trying to reroute every single asylum seeker, illegal alien that comes across the border through a specific crossing point. Because what the Biden administration has created is an actual unofficial port of entry so that Border Patrol agents can process illegal aliens. You know that we have a legal port of entry where people seek entry to the United States, but this administration has now created unofficial ports of entry between ports of entry where we can now process these illegal aliens. And unfortunately, this is just part of the plan. And this section of the wall, unfortunately, does very little to secure the border.
You know, Hector, and you know this far better than I, but I kind of sense from the administration they don't like the whole concept of a wall, that it's, you know, it's ugly. They don't like the notion behind it that you're trying to keep people out. Yet walls do work. Where we're having migrant surges or in areas where there are no walls. And I'm just wondering, why go through hoops debating what clearly seems to work, no matter whether you consider it an eyesore or not?
Well, we do know that there's been a lot of political conversations regarding Senator Mark Kelly and Senator Mark Kelly pushing for this section of the border wall in Arizona. We do believe that there is some political agenda behind this part of the wall in order to seek some type of support for Senator Mark Kelly. But that's something that usually happens with these border issues. We would call for border walls along the Laredo sector, right? Along the Laredo sector has 0 miles of border wall, zero infrastructure. And the problem, is that we didn't get a border wall in certain parts of the border, but we also didn't get any technology. And if you remember a lot of the Democrats in the Biden administration, they promised us that they would be building a virtual wall, and that has not happened in the almost 2 years of the administration. And unfortunately, the Border Patrol agents and the citizens that live along the border communities are left holding the bag with all these problems that are created with these border security policies.
Hector, I haven't had a chance to talk to you since the Homeland Security Secretary announced that the border is secure. What did you think of that?
That's a flat-out lie to the American public. We see it every single day where the border is definitely not secured. And not only are we seeing an uncontrollable amount of asylum seekers that are allegedly seeking asylum, but we're seeing untold thousands and thousands of pounds of illegal narcotics that are coming across the border. We're also seeing so many criminal illegal aliens that are getting away when they cross the border illegally. So it's tough to believe what's coming out of this administration's mouth when they say that the border is secure, when we along the border are seeing the disasters that are being created due to an unsecured border. We're seeing daily deaths with illegal aliens involved in human smuggling events. We're seeing police pursuits along the southern border on a daily basis, several times a day. So for this administration to come out and say that the border is secure, that's just a flat-out lie to the American public. We would welcome them to come to the border, talk to the real border security professionals, and see what's actually happening down on the border.
Why don't you think they do?
Well, unfortunately, it's all political. These politicians, these Democrats, the Biden administration, they've put politics ahead of the safety and security of the American public. They're just trying to secure their elections. We know we've got the midterms, and then before you know it, we're going to have President Trump running again against these Democrats. But it's all about politics, and unfortunately, they are forgetting about the safety and security of the American public. They're forgetting about us on the border. The border communities are being ravaged by human and drug smuggling incidents and criminal organizations that are taking over our communities. And unfortunately, our children, our families, our neighbors, and people are actually dying because of this crisis.
But a lot of these towns and cities north of Texas don't think too keenly when the Governor Abbott, sends those same migrants and those trying to cross into the country into their neck of the woods. Then it's a very different crisis, isn't it?
What's important is that Governor Abbott and Governor Ducey from Arizona, they continue sending these illegal immigrants to Washington D.C., New York, so they actually know how these illegal aliens are taking up the local resources from the communities that are meant for the people of those towns and those communities. We know that Governor Abbott has been doing an amazing job in proving a point that illegal immigration that's out of control actually creates problems in communities, and it takes services away from the people that are paying for those services, which is the taxpayer. And unfortunately, these illegal aliens that do ravage these communities do take a lot of these healthcare resources, education resources. And unfortunately, many of these illegal aliens are even victimized themselves, because what the Biden administration does is we send these illegal aliens to these communities, and these illegal aliens are then victimized by the cartels that control these communities in the United States. So this is just a big problem overall, and unfortunately, the policies of the Biden administration is affecting real people like us in Laredo, Texas, and real people in northern states in the United States, and quite frankly, it needs to stop. And the Biden administration needs to put the safety and security of the American public ahead of their political agenda.
Hector, thank you. Very good catching up with you. Hector Garza,
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.